1. Some back information. I've been a casino dealer for 11 years, I've been a supervisor for 5 years, and I've been a surveillance operator for 1 year. I've worked at 3 properties, none of which are connected or owned by the same company. I've worked on government, on private, and on Native American-owned casinos. 1. From hero to zero. At my first casino, I was one of the first group of people who were trained to deal roulette. After 4 weeks of working, 6 p.m. to 3 a.m., then doing roulette training from 3 a.m. to 8 a.m., not paid, I actually really enjoyed the game, and after about 6 months I became extremely quick at the number game, and the pace of the action was steady with a very low margin of errors. Young man walks in, cashes in for $500. He buys in for $2 chips and just loads the board. After a few spins and pretty decent hits, he then changes his chips from $2 to $5, then to $10, and racks his winnings up to $10,000. It was then 5 spins in a row. He loaded the board with some pretty gross bets, and every spin would hit the one number with either no chips on it, or maybe 1 chip. He lost all $10,000 in a matter of minutes. He leaves and I go on break. After my break, I was going back to the same table, and wouldn't you know it, the same young man walks in and cashes in another $500. He tells me he just sold his car outside, and this is all that he had left. So we do the same deal. Buys in for $2 chips, then slowly starts betting $5 chips, $10, $25, and he makes $10,000 again. Within the next 25 minutes, it was straight agony. Every spin, same thing. He would bet $2,500 chips, and then win only $250 or $400. And after about half an hour, he lost it all. Never saw the guy again. 2 man down. At this property, we are 24 hours for table games. It's currently 5 a.m., and I'm dealing some $25 blackjack to this guy. He's probably early 30s, heavy guy. He's sober as can be, but right away I can tell he's been losing. We know how many you've bought in for, how much you're down or up, and I could see he was down $2,000+. After about 20 minutes of pure losing, his temper starts to flare. At this point, I have 2 other guests arrive at my table, drinking coffee, not saying a word, just losing their money. After losing hand after hand, this guy looks me straight in the eye, seized up, starts shaking. He can't move. He tries to punch towards me and smashes his stack of chips all over the place, and falls backwards to the floor. I call for security. We cannot touch him due to liability. I can't move from my table because, well, liability, casino cash property. All I can do is try to talk to him, and I'm doing so. These other 2 women who are sitting at my table just look at me, and one says, "Okay, dealer, come on, let's go." As she taps the table telling me to start dealing and forget about the guy having a stroke on the floor. As security takes him to the ambulance out front. I had to stay behind for a couple minutes and give a statement. I go on break, I come back, and 45 minutes later he comes right back in with an oxygen tank and keeps gambling for the remainder of the morning. 3. On a late summer Saturday night, we had a large event for these massive muscle guys and strongmen type of competition thing. After their show, I'm at the roulette table, and 5 of these boys come over to play. They were absolutely hilarious. They were feeling pretty good, cashed in somewhat large amounts, and I could tell this was going to be a fun time. After about an hour of dealing to these guys, it's almost midnight, everybody is pretty hammered. I spin the ball, and all 5 of these guys take out these goddamn, what I can only tell was 2 feet purple dildos from inside their pants, and are whipping them around in the air. The ladies were just loving it. One of the dildos landed on the roulette wheel, and we had to shut the table down to recalibrate the wheel to make sure nothing had been changed. I just remember that night was so much damn fun, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I would never forget it. 4. On this day, I was actually training dealers and supervising them on small games like 3-card poker. We opened the table at 10 a.m., and this older man came and sat down. He played all day. The jackpot was $21,000, and that was pretty high for this table. He played and played and played. He's one of the players where you know he's wearing a diaper because he's been drinking coffee and pop all day, and he hasn't moved in 8 hours. As the day went on, this man never moved from his chair. Getting closer to midnight, he was aggravated and said, "I need to go have a smoke. I'm getting killed in here." He left, and the very next hand the lady beside him was dealt the jackpot. He didn't say much, but you could just tell he hated life at that very moment because had he not gotten up, it would have been his hand. The man calmly took his cane, his hat, jacket, coffee, and left. The next morning, I found out when he did leave, he drove his car straight through his bank and was arrested. 5. I'll actually give props to people who can actually pull this off. This story may confuse you, so I'll try to explain things as best as possible. A lot of casinos have machines as soon as you walk through the front doors. A man walks up to one of these machines and sticks in his $100 bill. He doesn't gamble it. Instead, he hits the cash out button and gets a $100 Tito ticket, where he then takes the ticket to the ATM machine to get his $100. Now remember, his original $100 is in the slot machine. He then takes the $100 from the ATM, goes back to the same machine, and repeats this process over 100 times. Essentially, he's taking money from the ATM and loading up the slot machine. Now, he knows he can't do it too much because if the slot machines get full of money, the machine will shut down, and the slow attendant will have to take all the cash out. So he deposits over $10,000. Then he has a small crowbar. He cracks the machine open and makes a run out of the front door. To my knowledge, he was never caught, but damn, that was pretty smart. 6. 10 p.m., man walks in to play some high-limit blackjack. This guy knows the game and played well. Dressed nice, drank juice and tea, a little bit of an attitude. Cashed in over $10,000. When this man was halfway down his buy-in, he said something along the lines of, "If I don't win here tonight, I'm going to set myself on fire." I wasn't sure if he was serious because when people are down, they tend to say a lot of nonsense. I actually left early that night, and from a third party was told he did exactly that in the parking lot. The next day it was clear something terrible had gone wrong in the parking lot. 7. After a busy Saturday night, I was dealing a mix of games, and during this story I was in the middle of blackjack. I had one young kid, probably 19, sitting in the middle, one older male, probably in his later 40s, sitting beside him on his right, and I had a really nice couple in their 20s sitting together on the other side. This young kid wasn't playing, just sort of watching, and every time the old man won, he would give this young guy some of his winnings. The older man was a wine drinker, and he had black between all of his teeth. I'll never forget, he's a little drunk, but nothing terrible. As the night goes on, the older man goes and uses the washroom, at which point the couple asks the young guy, "Oh, is that your dad?" The young guy says, "No, I wish." The couple and I just looked at each other. This old guy was in complete control over this kid. Absolutely disgusting. The night ends and I found out the couple called a few of their friends, and they all waited outside by this old man's truck and beat the living hell out of him. 40 years old sleeping with a 19-year-old, completely brainwashed. Very weird. 8. One of our co-workers, nice guy, but had a very big ego, and we as employees just sort of left him alone. One day he had enough of the atmosphere and he quit. Now usually when you quit, you cannot come back until your paperwork is finalized. However, HR wasn't in that day, and he was given the paperwork the very next day. He came in and cashed in $1,000 and made $50,000 in about an hour at the baccarat table. My manager was extremely annoyed, because now this guy is just mocking the casino and having the time of his life. Thanks for the big tip, by the way. And so he decides to call it quits. He wants to ban himself, and he wants $50,000 in cash. The casino says, "Nope, we are going to give you a check." Now here's the thing. Most business people will take the check. However, you can't cash the check until the following Monday, because it's on that day where the funds are available. The casino, on the other hand, will cash their own check at any time. because they want you to play. So this guy pretty much said, "Go to hell, I want my cash," and he called the police. Police show up, and management property promptly gives him the cash. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. 9. I was dealing with 3-card poker, and the jackpot was around $17,000. This old man, a regular, was sitting there all day grinding it out. Super nice guy. Always a pleasure to deal with. Well, after hours of playing, he stands up and says, "Hey, John, can you come over here for a minute?" So his buddy John comes over. He says to John, "I need to take a piss real quick. Can you play my card until I get back?" John agrees. John takes the chips, and I stop him and explain he can't play his friend's chips. He needs to cash in and play his own, and he does. Well, second hand out, and bam, doesn't he win it. The old man comes back and is so happy he can't believe it. John took his $17,000, didn't say a word to his buddy, and walked away. I never felt so much hatred in my life. Didn't give him $1, not a thank you, nothing. The old man sits back down again, the progressive resets to $2,500, and he sat there grinding away again. 10. I had this player, a young guy, who was born into a fortune. One of his relatives passed away and left him a pretty big sizable amount of money. So he played poker every single day for the rest of his days. I will add he is a good player. I did not enjoy his company just because of the know-it-all attitude, but he was good. We'll call him John. John is 5'10", well-built with muscle. John also decided today was the day to show off his top knot. Google top knot if you're not sure what I mean. So he sits down and he's absolutely killing the table. Every hand after hand after hand. And because he's in such a good mood, he's playing any 2 cards, calling any $500 bet, and he's just dominating. This one guy at the table decided he had had enough. He got up, without saying a word, and left. A moment later he comes back in, walks behind John, and takes a pair of scissors and cuts off his top knot. I, for one, couldn't believe it, dying laughing inside, and it just turned into one big brawl. That was a good day. 11. One of my best friends, who I haven't seen in years, ended up being part of the crew. It was kind of nice to catch up. We never really got along as we grew up because he has a very high picture of himself. He wanted that 10 out of 10 woman, a mansion, a new Corvette. So every month or so, we would all go up to the other casino to play. I myself would bring no more than $500, but I couldn't understand how this guy, Kyle, was spending thousands of dollars at the tables. So this went on for a few months. Well, one day, as we're closing the casino, he and I are in the high limit room and we're getting ready to close the tables. We are told to take the chips out, count them, put them back, sign this piece of paper, and that's it. Well, as the supervisor was locking the tray, the piece of paper fell to the floor, so she asked Kyle to grab the piece of paper. As he bends over, a great big $500 chip falls right out of his sock. Kyle was fired immediately, but it all made sense. They offered Kyle a deal where if he replaced all the stolen chips, they would not make it public. Not sure how that turned out. 12. After working at my first casino for 5 years, I met an Indian woman who was visiting from another part of the country. During this time, I was explaining the game to her, which, honestly, I don't think she even cared. She explained she was visiting and sightseeing. And that was that. Well, 2 years later, I ended up moving to the other side of the country and transferred casinos. And lo and behold, she worked there as a dealer. We got married, and it's been 5 years. 13. One of our tables that we've had for a couple of years has a progressive jackpot that has reached $100,000. The dealer at the table was sitting pretty lonely. Nobody really played the game because people knew it was extremely difficult to win the jackpot. My memory is a tad foggy, but somehow you needed to flop the royal flush. This young guy sits down and says to the dealer, we'll call him John, "John, if you pay me for that jackpot, I will tip you $10,000. Well, John started dealing, and about half an hour into his shift, he fucking did it. He dealt him the royal, and you know something? This young lad kept his word. And he made sure there was an audience, and he tipped exactly $10,000. That was a moment right there. That paycheck was real nice. I think we all got about $500 more than usual. The moment that jackpot was awarded, they got rid of the table, because the money it was making was not near what the casino wanted. I'm sure there have been bigger tips at other casinos, but that was something special. 14. Now, this story I'm going to have to beat around the bush a bit due to the nature of what happened. I can't and won't answer any questions that you may have on this topic, other than what I have to say because it had a lot of publicity. The waitresses at this casino had to wear very thin, sexy clothes. Not borderline legal, but it was noticed. One day, they called all the waitresses to come in and explained they were changing their outfit to something even more sexier. Now, these new dresses were very, very borderline legal. The staff said, "No way, we're not wearing that." So Friday night comes and the staff work their whole shift. Then at the end of the shift, they were called into a private meeting and were all fired. Well, one of those ladies' fathers was a pretty big-time lawyer. Brought the casino to court and won. They won big. Good for them. We had no waitresses for a couple of days. Additional information, just to answer questions if anyone's wondering. We cannot gamble at our casino, or any casino that's owned by the same company. However, we do understand the odds and outcomes of each game, and honestly, mostly enjoy the atmosphere. If you gamble with feelings, it will never work out. On the side, we also run our own poker games for the employees, lots of partying, and then any casino that we do play at, anything nearby, we all kind of know each other because they come play at our casino and we go play at their casino. That being said, some people who work in the industry want to work there because it stops them from gambling. One last note, not that it's advertised much. You can actually ban yourself from the casino. If you go back and win anything that requires ID, your winnings will go to charity. I've worked at larger casinos, and the security guards and surveillance can't keep tabs on every single person who's been banned. We do our best. But if you are caught, yes, you can be charged. This actually does happen more than you think. I will be dealing, and then I will be told by my supervisor, "Stop dealing spot 4. That person in spot 4 can't be dealt another hand until the issues, whatever they are resolved." Also, at one property I worked at, our surveillance team also did surveillance for 2 other casinos, so for a couple of people in a room with a bunch of screens, it can be complicated. I have many more stories, and feel free to ask questions about the casino industry. I don't really have many stories about the surveillance department, because that's the one area where I can't really say a whole lot, due to its privacy and contracts I was, and still am, under. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to... Oh, I almost said hotel stories, because that's what this video initially started out to be. Casino stories, perhaps number 1. We'll see. This essentially worked out that I came across a story. The author was kind enough to let me use it, and there was a good number of stories added to it, so it became its own very own video. And that is Reddit user Viodox, or Viodox0259. Thank you kindly for letting us use your stories and sharing them with us. They were very interesting. Okay, I think I'm putting this one up on... I think this one's going up on Thursday. Yeah, this will be Thursday, I think. So, paranormal tornado, everything else is fine. Right, now, are you guys getting a little bit bored with the weekend Phasmophobia streams? If you are, we can move on to something else. If you're not, we'll keep playing, and we'll try and get more people involved. Julie, you know who you are. I can't remember how to pronounce your second name. I want to say Antsack or some such. You won the raffle. I haven't seen you on the stream yet, so I haven't been able to get you. And I need your actual friend code on Steam in order to gift you the game. But you won. The game's yours whenever you want it. Right, that's that little bit of business taken care of. Assuming Julie hears this, I mean, I don't assume everybody watches every video. I mean, if that was the case, then my view numbers would be exactly the same for every video. And wouldn't that be boring? Yeah, boring, that's the word I was looking for. Anyway, I did get Dead by Daylight during the last sale. I'm not sure if that's really an appropriate stream game, or quite frankly, I could just make a nice cup of tea and get back to playing Sherlock Holmes again. Wouldn't that be lovely? More Holmes and Creepy Watson, but we'll see. We'll decide on Saturday, probably about 10 seconds before I actually hit the start stream button. Okay, I should probably be heading off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.